Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Next Economy MBA from Lift Economy. This is our free interactive Q&A for our 15th cohort of the Next Economy MBA to start this September 2025. So, welcome everybody, and we just a little brief overview. We're gonna give you an intro to the program and the curriculum, introduce our instructors. We have alumni here to share their experience, and then we'll spend the bulk of the time answering your questions. We've received a number of questions in advance that we're prepared to answer, but we'll also make space for any questions that are top of mind. So I'm going to jump into our little intro presentation. So, Lift Economy, we exist to create benefit for all life, and we'll be hearing a little bit more about our work. But just starting with our current context, I think most folks are aware that current economy is not working for many, many people on Earth. We have active kinetic warfare. We have many, close to 1 billion people without access to potable water for drinking and sanitation. We have extreme inequalities of wealth. This is actually an old slide. Now I think it's maybe four men have as much wealth as half of the global population, which of course is not working out for the benefit of life. We have massive extinction of species. We're in E6, the sixth mass extinction on this planet, and it's accelerating. So it's a very, very critical loss of biodiversity on the planet with severe implications for the future of humanity and life. We have extreme temperature rise. This again is an old chart. This year, 2025, will most likely be the hottest year on record, and will likely be the coldest year for the rest of the century. So very, very critical implications to all of this. And so, we're not going to spend too much time on the problem statement, but just to recognize there's serious issues, and what do we do about, and what are we talking about here with the next economy? So this is one of our frameworks that we use in the course. This is called the Two Loops framework from the Berkana Institute. And the Two Loops is a systems change framework. This top loop is we can use to identify with what we will call the business as usual economy, and then the bottom loop is what we're hopefully transitioning to the next economy. And so what this framework is saying is in the progression of systems and cycles, there's a dominant system that eventually needs to be hospiced or wound down or to die, and a midwife or a new and emergent new emergent system to emerge. And this dotted line is kind of like the business as usual economy, like hitting the gas going over the cliff. And again, if anybody's watching the news, you can see that going on. And so what we want to do, and this is a framework that can help with sense making. We want to both make it less bad. We want to do the hospice work to wind down some of the harm, and then we also want to birth and midwife into existence the solution. And we want to build a bridge between those. Kevin, can I pass to you to share a little bit about Lift Economy?
Totally. Do you want to pass me slides or do you want to do the slides?
What do you think?
Either way.
Okay, I'll pass to you just so you can.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So what do we do about it? So at Lift Economy, we're a worker-owned cooperative impact consultancy. And our main approach to addressing this necessary transformation of the business as usual economy to an economy that works for the benefit of all life by providing direct technical assistance and support to individuals and organizations who are navigating those curves. How do we, in some cases, incrementally, but or transformatively, kind of structure and operate next economy institutions to provide needed goods and services to our communities, but in ways that are distinct from the norms and structures of the business as usual economy that has created the inordinate harm and perpetuates the inordinate harm that Sean highlighted at the top of the session here. So we've worked with over 350 different organizations of different sizes, organizations with hundreds of employees to individual solopreneurs, and all sorts of different types of organizations, worker-owned cooperatives, multi-stakeholder cooperatives, perpetual purpose trusts, benefit corporations, worker self-directed nonprofits, et cetera. Just lots of different types and forms of next economy institutions. When we work with those, it can't stop there because we learned quickly that one of the big barriers to next economy activity is access to resources, non-extractive capital to be able to do the things that need to be done to support communities. And so at Lift Economy, we've had some experience in actually starting something called the Force for Good Fund, which was a non-extractive investment fund focused on providing capital to women-owned, person of color-owned, next economy cooperative enterprises working on racial justice or food security or climate and similar outcomes. So capital formation is really important. Part of our mission in Lift Economy is actually to share the stories. So we have a podcast, actually a couple of podcasts, where we try and uplift and bring into discourse or dialogue the stories of who's out there working on some of this transformative work. We have been asked to publish books. In fact, we were invited to publish a book about this next economy MBA by Barrett Kohler. So that's a book that kind of tracks along some of the arc of the curriculum, which we'll discuss today. Another thing we do at Lift Economy is called field building, where there's kind of critical areas of the economy that are highly fractured in terms of the disintegrated approach to providing for core needs like housing, for example. And so we work with different groups in a indirect individual basis on whether it's workforce development or edible landscaping or disaster preparedness or renewable energy microgrids or green infrastructure, et cetera. But we actually start connecting the field together for a bigger theme like building resilient communities. We also work on things that were called next economy infrastructure. Even if we figured out all the institutions and businesses, there's still like these big cultural systems that also need transformation, like the education system, the government system, as examples, the retirement system. We also have found a need to work on what we're generally calling leadership, but kind of that human development aspect of being part of these institutions asks a lot from us about how we communicate with each other and how we listen, how we provide feedback. And so we have a series of trainings related to next economy leadership as well. And then
Yay!
hey, and we also have programs around transforming our relationship to consumption. And so we have a program called Next Economy Living, which challenges a group, a community practice really to learn together, like how do we change our basic habits, behaviors, and norms, sensitive to diverse privilege and positionality, but how do we become more of a producer culture and less of a dependent consumer culture dependent on cash to mediate our needs. And so that's another training. But by far the biggest kind of group that we're working with is the hundreds of people, now about 800 people, who have partaken in the Next Economy MBA. And it probably is Lift Economy. Despite all those amazing things we do, this is probably likely the most important thing or our legacy project. I'll pass it back to you, Sean, for introducing some of the contours of the Next Economy MBA.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody. So yeah, as Kevin shared, some of our background as a consulting firm and the other work we've done. And so as we've had the privilege to work with all these organizations, we've also been looking kind of as systems designers of like, what's the fundamental pattern of problems that all these organizations need to solve? And also, what are some of the solutions that are working? And the next economy being the MBA being a way for us to share this out from one to many, whereas not everybody can hire us to come and consult directly with their team. This is a great way to make the information much wider available, which also we've done through the book and the podcast. But so this is where we're going to go into some of the specifics about the course that folks came here to find out. So these will answer some of the questions. And we'll go into other ones. So yeah, wonderful community of 800 folks now, and is yeah, such a privilege to get to meet and work with these folks, and likewise, always looking forward to the new folks joining us. So this is a question that we often get. How does it compare to a traditional MBA? Well, a standard MBA is great for middle management training for a business as usual corporation, right? And those programs are out there, and there's people doing that. There's also this kind of green MBA or sustainable MBA that have been emergent in the last couple decades, and those are really good for an ESG role in a corporation, or honestly, when we showed that the curve is kind of like hospice work, sometimes helping corporations do less bad. Sometimes, unfortunately, it'll help you. You'd be required to help a corporation get away with the rules, or how do you get around the rules? So where's the MBA program that's for regenerative finance, gift economy, self-managing organizations, multi-stakeholder cooperatives, nonviolent communication, non-extractive investing, racial justice? We didn't see it. We don't see it. And so this is why we're offering this training. So it is the overview of the training. It's 9 months. We have about 60 to 75 people per cohort. It's a lifelong community. So this is one of our favorite parts of the program. It's a long program, and we know life happens. So often folks, their life might get disrupted. Once you sign up, you're welcome to come to any future session or any future cohort. And we have about 10 or 20% of alumni that actually re-enroll in every cohort. And we love that. It's a great way to stay in touch and continue to build our community. Sometimes the curriculum we're going through isn't exactly what you need in your business, and you can come back for the sessions that are most relevant. In terms of who it's for, definitely entrepreneurs and/or team members that you're on a team, you're on a project, you're doing it, and this is some of the business mechanics that can help you solve the problems. And that's a great fit. Also, aspiring entrepreneurs, you're going to start a project or be part of a team. You haven't done it yet, but this is a way to kind of foresee everything that you're going to need to navigate. Also, we get a fair amount of folks that are looking for a career transition. They have a job, but they know there's something better for them, and they want to get a better understanding of the next county landscape in order to transition into that. Those are kind of our two biggest groups. And then we also get kind of a scattering of academics, storytellers, investors, lifelong learners, etc., who are curious and enjoying, which we love. This is the basic breakdown of the curriculum. We have sessions 1 through 6 that actually are standalone. If you're not sure about the whole training, you can sign up for session 1 through 6. We'll do an assessment of the business usual economy. We'll look at next economy principles, frameworks, entity structures, and also personal life design. Then the session 7 through 16 is the kind of nuts and bolts, business mechanics of how to run an organization. So we look at vision, culture, strategy, operational systems, marketing, and sales. And then at the end, we kind of jump back out to systems and culture change of, okay, informed by all of this, what are we doing to really usher in the next economy? So as I said, yeah, the intro is a standalone session, and folks are welcome to join that. And then you can also extend to the full course without a price increase. So that's a good option. There's a full curriculum list. We also feature dozens of case stories. We really try to make it case story heavy, so to really feature what folks are actually doing and really use that to reference some of the principles and practices. We have lots of open source templates. All the stuff we're sharing is Creative Commons for you to share and share alike. We offer extra fun assignments for synthesis and integration. It's not homework, it's not assigned. This is a self-directed learning journey. If you want to have more fun with the content, you're certainly welcome. We have racial justice caucus groups that meet separately, people of color and white allies throughout the training. We also have participant-led affinity groups on different subjects such as regenerative finance, building resilient communities, media, arts, journalism, culture, and those are also emergent. So if you have an idea, you want to start one, we help folks organize within the community. We also do special sessions as they're requested. And then we have our own private social media platform called Hilo. It is a nonprofit, non-commercial, non-addictive social media platform that's run by a cooperative of actually some of the alumni that came through the program. So that's a good resource. The course over 9 months is 18 sessions, roughly every 2 weeks. They're about an hour and a half each. Then we also have office hours following each session. And those are all recorded. The racial caucus sessions are not recorded, but you're certainly invited to be there. And we get this question a lot of like, how much should I expect to spend in terms of time on the whole course? And what we hear from folks is about 2 or 2.5 hours a week throughout the course to really stay up with the content. And of course, folks can do more or less depending on their situation. So the next cohort starts September 30th. We have the early bird option until August 11th. You get, I think it's 20% off. The full tuition's $4,500. We have a 50% discount for people of color. We don't turn anybody away for lack of financial capacity, so reach out if that's an issue. And we also offer 100% tuition back guarantee if you're not satisfied for some reason. There is a certificate of completion that that we offer that you can earn. Some folks, for example, get education stipend reimbursement if they show a certificate, so we do it for that reason. And that is our basic overview. From here, I'd like to do, we'll do some quick facilitator intros, and then we'll go and hear from our alumni that's with us. So, hi, Phoenix, I see you there. You want to give your intro?
Hi, everyone. Sorry that I'm late. Just came off a coaching call that went over. Yeah, so I'm Phoenix Soleil. I'm partner owner at Lift Economy. I also teach some of the sessions in the Next Economy MBA program. What's the work I do is the leadership series. I also do consulting and coaching with clients on like how do we bring these next economy principles into how we interact? Like, how do we hold accountability and with care? How do we hold it when we're also navigating historical inequity? How do we hold it accountability without punitive ways? How do we do repair? And I also coach leaders on and I yeah support people in different ways. And I'm glad to be here. MBA is very inspiring, especially at a time like this. All right, Kevin, have you already introduced yourself?
I could just say a little bit briefly. Kevin Bayuk, also worker owner, Lyft Economy. I do a lot of technical assistance, especially around things like financing, structuring organizations, hiring, especially around projects around land, housing, regenerative agriculture, climate stuff, and a lot of other types of projects. Sean.
Thanks, Kevin. Phoenix, Sean Barry, he, him. I'm here on Lenape land in the Mid-Hudson Valley, New York, near Kingston. I've been a worker owner for 28 years, basically my whole career. So I'm definitely a cooperative developer. I work with a lot of worker-owned cooperatives and also work on like succession planning, especially to employee buyouts. I also do basically, strategic facilitation, meeting facilitation, financial modeling, kind of whatever we need. I also support Phoenix on our culture and leadership series, and very happy to be here. So that's the LIFT team. Also, we have Erin Axelrod on our team that facilitates a lot of the sessions, and she has a deep background in land stewardship. She's also working with many tribal projects across Indian country here in America. She's also working on nature-based solutions on a global project. So she brings a lot of skills to the team. Oh yeah, thanks, Kevin. There's Aaron there. We also have Jeanette Moreland, who teaches our relational marketing segments. And then rounding out the team, we have Ryan Honeyman and Enemy Allison that are on our B Corp team. And they might pop into sessions here and there as well. So that is our LIFT team. And we're so happy Miguel is with us. Hey, Miguel. And so we love to just offer our alumni a chance to share their experience with the program. And also, Miguel, if you share, share whatever's on your mind about the program. And then also, if folks have questions for alumni, we'll have a time that you can ask questions directly of Miguel. So,
Cool.
Miguel, thanks for being
Yeah.
here.
Hey everyone, this is Miguel speaking, he, him. So yeah, I'll try not to word vomit too much. I'm kind of notorious for it, but I ended up getting my MBA from NC State. And towards the end of the program, I ended up going to a B Corp conference where I had the lovely encounter with Emmy. We had lunch together. And she told me about this program. So she's a great advocate for lived economy. And so shortly thereafter, I signed up. And it was meant to be kind of a compliment to the MBA, and kind of seeing like the contrast between the business as usual and how to get to that next economy. And so the traditional MBA from NC State, I felt really instilled a lot of business as usual traits, of course, getting me ready for that middle management role. I was actually being groomed to become a president of a multinational. And it was not aligning with me at all. There was a lot of internal strife. And so you'll find on this journey, it tends to be kind of a common denominator where a lot of people kind of found themselves in corporate America and wanted to shift because business as usual, it's very grating at times, a lot of the time. So this ended up being something that I aligned with a lot more. And while I still, definitely struggle with some of the tenants, it's something that I appreciate that struggle. It's something that I feel like I'm having growth through. So the challenges are not necessarily something that I resist against. Some of my favorite material that came from the course, I love spreadsheets. So a lot of the finances and figuring out how to basically work a lot of externalities into your accounting practices, very exciting to me. But I also love the culture and communication, something that I've loved from the get-go, even in business as usual, as I believed in transparency. All the team on board, believing in a lot of feedback from everybody. It doesn't matter if you're somebody that's interning at the company or if you're a C-level executive. I want everybody's input, what's going on. Oftentimes whenever you're not talking to people that are on the floor and doing the work, you miss out on a substantial amount of feedback that you really should be taking in, listening to and implementing back into the practice. So been a wonderful 9-month course. I've had a lot of life changes. I think I only had to miss one session, and I've met a wonderful group of students and of course professors as well. So thank y'all for giving me the stage for a little bit. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free.
Thanks, Miguel. So just holding, if you have questions for Miguel, Miguel's here. We'll give some space for that. You can also, if you can type in the chat or you can come off mute. We'd love to hear from you.
Hi everyone. I actually have to jump off. I just couldn't, the chat is disabled, so I couldn't say my thank you. So at least on my end, I couldn't see it, but very informative and I'll be in touch. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much. Thanks for saying hi. So yeah, Natalia.
Hello, hola everyone. A few questions. So curious, is this mainly US based or do the cohorts come from across the globe?
Great. Yeah,
First,
good question.
just
Yeah,
what kind of mix is it? And when speaking of the cultural piece, my assumption is that it's based heavily in Western kind of practices and culture, etc., versus taking into account perhaps working in other places where that can heavily influence how we might engage with each other in a business setting. So just kind of curious a little bit more on that. But really looking forward to it. This was actually recommended to me by one who's about to graduate, I believe, and another who's gone through the program, who I collaborate with other consultants and community. And I come from MBA land as well. I also never really fit. So I'm really curious to click in more, but that piece, just sort of how global is the reach and sort of that piece of, is it more mainly through a Western lens? Thank you.
Yeah, we had so we've had international participants. I think most of the cohorts. Sometimes it's been more than others, but I'd say it's majority has been U.S. and or North America. Yeah, and I think we try to bring when we can things from other places, but I'd say most, and I'd love to get Sean and Kevin's input on this. I'd say most of it is from a North American perspective. Yeah. Oh, great. Kevin's put into the chat maybe 5 to 10% outside the US. Yeah. And one of the things that's great about the community is that if you're interested in deepening those connections with the international community members, that we have lots of affinity groups, and you can just create one. And we then send an email out to not just the current cohort you're in, but the other cohorts, and say, hey, let's all meet and talk about this topic, so that you're part of a bigger club than just your cohort. And we encourage people taking that kind of initiative. Kevin, Sean, would you like to add anything?
Go ahead, Kevin.
I say on the cultural piece, by Western, I imagine that might mean like it could mean a few different things. So Natalia, trying to guess like the definitely the I guess to suggest there's such a plurality of cultures around the world, and throughout time as well. And so I could interpret Western as being somehow sometimes as popularly interpreted as kind of like the maybe white supremacist Euro American modernist or postmodernist kind of culture. Whereas some people would interpret Western as like native indigenous to North America culture. And so I'm not sure which Western we're referring to, but I'm guessing the kind of like what sometimes in the course we talk about the business as usual domination culture paradigm, which tragically is less in the West, or it is in the West, but is now global or present globally and expanding globally with the momentum of the business as usual economy. And from that perspective, I think part of the Next Economy MBA, when we say Next Economy, though we're good friends with groups like the New Economy Coalition, when we say Next Economy, we don't use the word new because a lot of the cultural norms and institutional cultural structures and axioms and constructs are actually quite old. kind of rooted in indigenous lifeways and traditions of living in alignment. When we talk about an economy that works for the benefit of all life, it's like, how do we, from a first principles perspective, meet human needs reliably in ways that don't take away from the land or the society around us, but actually contribute meaningfully to the repair, regeneration, restoration of both the social and environmental world within which we live and that surrounds us while meeting our needs. And if from that perspective, I would argue, if we're defining Western as domination culture, I would say we're decidedly orthogonal to Western culture in terms of what's presented in the training and the culture we're fostering and growing. That said, the businesses, the Next Economy MBA there's intersections with the business as usual economy, as there is an emphasis on this idea of, like, as we transition from a business as usual economy that's not working to an economy that works for the benefit of all life, there are likely going to be transition steps. And some of those transition steps will involve institutions. And some of those institutions will have like legal structures like nonprofits or benefit corporations, and some of them will pay taxes, and some of them will have contracts. And so there's all these vestiges of the domination culture kind of thing that need to be like reinterpreted, or there's an opportunity to reinterpret those and figure out how do we navigate those rather than just, like assume that they're a given, but like actually how do we artfully transition a full cultural transition, which unfortunately is probably a multi-generational affair, but we all have work to do in our life. I don't know, Natalia, I just want to check and see how that's resonating with you, if that's okay.
I would add also just that like most of our experience of the facilitation team is based in the United States, and most of our case stories and experience consulting is also in the United States. We do feature some international stuff. We do work on some international stuff, and I've just been delightfully surprised at I think we've had folks from like all continents, so it's like we have folks from China and let's see, I'm currently like Philippines, Europe, Africa, Central South America. So while it's small, it's enough to like feel like, oh, we have a little bit of global reach and connection there. But yeah, thank you for the question. Oh, I see, Cami. Hi.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Cami. I am located in Savannah, Georgia. I come from a non-MBA background. I have two, my degrees are in the humanities with a sustainability focused background. And I've worked in sustainability in higher ed predominantly the past 10 years. And so I'm a career transitioner in some ways. My role is ending in my current organization, and I'm kind of looking to re-up because I come from a more humanities background, and in the sustainability and or climate space, there obviously is a pretty heavy focus on finance and active decarbonization, which is more like engineering focused. And so I'm wondering two different things. One's probably for you, Miguel, but the three of you might be able to answer also. The first thing is, how has this course been integrated into roles that you've seen people come out of this course? Or Miguel, how have you integrated the kind of combination, and Natalia, maybe even you, since you come from an MBA background too, that you've done the business as usual learning, and Miguel, now you've had both. How are you kind of like piecemealing those together in current roles? And then for myself specifically, because I don't come from an MBA background, and I've been thinking about getting an MBA getting an MBA, but I don't actually want to because I don't really have an interest in the business as usual. So.
Sure. Yeah. This is Miguel. So like I said, it's kind of a complement. So a lot of the stuff, it was a similar language, but it ended up kind of being a little bit, like I said, transformative. I'm also a lifelong learner, so I'm getting another graduate degree right now, and I'm studying sustainability. My focus is on policy, so local level policy specifically. And then I like the intersection of business and sustainability, resiliency. It's a very interesting climate right now to be in, especially here in North America, kind of figuring out where to kind of find some interesting points with policy. But some of the changes that have happened in my life that have kind of stemmed from this course have been specifically working in my community or the bio region to reach out to people that are working in regenerative economics and also a lot of permaculture. So I've met a huge network of people that are focused on the food system here and developing out food hubs. So that's something that, again, is much more on the local level. It's probably within about 5 counties that are adjacent to one another and trying to work with all these people that have different needs. And so those needs might be that they need people to be out there, and those people might need food. So how do you make sure that these people are able to talk with one another? Those resources are available to everybody. This has been something that continually finds me in my life. I actually started in undergrad managing an aquaponics farm, which did a lot of outreach in an underserved community, and it seems to have followed me. So food systems, I don't actively seek it, but it's definitely there in my life. It's very present. So I've becoming a lot more open to it. In the business as usual mindset, I was very focused on accumulating capital, so getting a lot of money. And in the food system world, there's not a lot of money. So I actually pushed against it for a long time. And so Next Economy MBA was a lot more being open to that. And it's very grounding to kind of be just out there in whatever it might be, your community garden, it might be a local farm. So that's how I've incorporated it. It's a lot in community building and a lot in understanding what the needs of the community are and how you can make that work without necessarily having an extractive system in place. So, yeah. And I do plan on continuing with learning. I'm actually exploring doctoral programs right now, but I like going to school. So that's just me.
Thanks, Miguel.
Yeah, I could say something that I loved about what Miguel just shared is how important the community, because the networking is so important, because the thing is that a lot of what people are up to and what we need is there's not a lot of maps. What's great about the course is that we do give you, here's some people who are doing this and this is how they're doing it. But there's so much of it that it's like you're going against the grain of the mainstream, and so creating community is a huge part. Knowing, and then the people in the course being able to, in the office hours, talk about how they're implementing some of these ideas or how they've been doing this or that, and for the last few years is like these haven't all of this made into textbooks because this is like on the ground people learning. And that's why we thought it was so important to create this so that people could learn, because otherwise, how would you know? And then the thing is that what you get is that you get this, we call it a survey course because, you might not know at the end what kinds of accounting you might not know enough to be able to create an accounting system. We give you templates and stuff, but you know where to go to get that kind of support. You know some of the questions you need to ask, and so that puts you ahead of the game in a way that is really supportive for being able to, again, like know where to network and to be able to get the community together. And then some of the people who are in the course are in nonprofits. They're in business as usual companies, and they're trying to figure out how to bring some of these principles into their work. And then other people, they meet and they sometimes create a next economy enterprise together. And then other people are transforming their organizations. They are already have some elements of next economy and they're growing. So it's um, if this is your passion, this is a good place to be. Sean or Kevin, you wanna? Oh, yeah. Natalie, you wanted to say something?
Go ahead and answer. I'll ask my question.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. We can come back to you again. Yeah, I just wanted to build on Phoenix saying it's a survey course. The other, we would also maybe describe it as a literacy versus a competency. So you can see with the 18 sessions, 9 months, it's more for academics, right? It's maybe like a 6 credit hour or something, like a lab course or something, So it's not a master's degree, right? So the idea is like, let's survey the whole landscape of the problems you'd have to solve, and we'll feature some solutions. But like Phoenix said, you're not going to be completely trained up on everything. But part of our invitation is like, do this. There's more of a paradigm shift than compared to business as usual. And hopefully it's enough to just like dive in and get going. Part of how I started the presentation, this is critical moment for humanity. So we don't want to tell folks like go get a advanced degree for a couple years and then jump in. We're trying to frame this of like, come on, jump in right now, let's get going. So it's a little it's kind of streamlined for that. Just Cami, just checking with you, how's this landing, and if you have any follow-up questions or comments.
Yeah, it sounds good. I think I'm just these massive institutions in higher ed are generally still sticking with the business as usual. So I think what I'm hearing is that that you're saying it's more of a literacy, which makes sense. Do you guys talk more about, and Natalia, I know you had another question, so I don't want to take up more space, but do you talk about how those have been built together, like how you do combine like a BAU and this next economy, and what that looks like of those that transition? Is that part of what y'all talk about in the case studies? Because it feels, looking at a big picture and not coming from an MBA background, and everybody's kind of speaking against it, and that we need to be sticking with the business as usual, it feels like it's going to be a really big jolt, right? Or this really big shift, like a heavy right turn or a heavy left turn. But is that necessarily what, like, do you talk about that transition, I guess?
Kevin?
Yeah, like Sean showed that two loops curve model, if you will, in the preamble kind of images, that hospicing of one way to think about hospice work in this context is incremental, less bad, transitional, wholly inadequate, but essential to the long arc of transformation of the economy. That looks like things that the closer up you are on that hospice curve looks fairly like similar to business as usual. So, there's 9,000 certified B Corps in the world today, and we do talk about B Corps and benefit corporation statutes, and these are companies that might be names in Patagonia or Ben and Jerry's, or these are companies that are with known brands and they operate with supply webs, and it's very similar to a business as usual company. But a company like WorldCentric, that's a benefit corporation, what makes them different from a business as usual organization is that they gift a substantial portion of their profits to dire human needs. The products that they create are compostable serviceware, so to create a more zero waste, less plastic world. So they're creating products that are better for people, and they're doing things different, both in terms of how they operate as an organization and what they do with their profit allocations. And so we do talk about organizations like that in the case studies that are transitioning from. Will frequently underscore those examples with, and if every company in the world were like Patagonia and WorldCentric, we would still be in a self-terminating existential end of humanity scenario. And so there's that piece of like, transition is important, essential, but wholly inadequate. So we do talk about transition structures, transition systems, laying the groundwork for the prefigurative midwifery, more radical, like from a structural perspective, that will talk about much more radical economic institutions and activities, which are, like I heard you say, jolting or big turn. Those are pretty big from the cultural norms of today, for at least from anybody who was born in, say, a racialized capitalism system. It's not super easy to recognize. Of course, if you were born into an intact indigenous culture, you might recognize a lot of those structures. It's like, oh yeah, this is more consistent with the life ways that are meaningful for sustaining our community. So they both are present in the Next Economy MBA, and in fact, one of our kind of principles is to share the big picture of transformation so that you can kind of locate yourself in your activities in the arc of your life, of like, what am I doing in the big arc of transformation? It might only be accessible for you to it's anybody to be like, oh, it's only accessible for me to find I still need to pay rent. I need a job, and so like there's a bunch of people take the Next Economy MBA, like, I want to have a better job that's more in alignment with my values. How do I find that? And how do I show up to that role in a way that's more authentic and with whole integrity about how I want to be? That's a beautiful thing. And that's part of the journey of transformation. Other people might show up to the Next Economy MBA saying, I want to create a gift-based eco-village, non-transaction, totally regenerative, self-sustaining model for a new way of living. Okay, that's pretty radical and pretty exciting, and that's included too. But there's no imposition that says everybody has to be that, if that makes sense. I don't know if I want to check and see, Cami, is this addressing your question in some regard?
Yeah, I think it's helpful for me to see, or when you're talking, to see how it fits into the question I'm asking, for sure. Thank you.
The other thing I would say, and it's like we could, there's a lot of depth there, but it's like the business as usual economy is the dominant global economy. So we're not trying to be fictional and saying, oh, we're not going to worry about that. We're completely subjugated to that. And so the Next Economy solutions that we're going to reference and encourage are like, kind of negotiating with that to a certain degree and doing the best they can. And what we're trying to point towards is like, we could go that way with everything. But it takes a lot of imagination. We see abundant solutions, but they're not wholly integrated in any place. So we can't just say, oh, the social democracies of Northern Europe, they have it completely figured out. That's not true. They have some things figured out, but it's a lot more nuanced than that. So we kind of attempt to assemble these independent solutions, almost like a mosaic, to animate the imagination of what could be possible. And that's what's next. And it's emergent, and we don't know. So it's not like the next economy is this because we said so. It's like we're just trying to help steer it to that direction. There's going to be a lot of creativity and emergence coming.
Yeah. We want to check in on Natalia.
Yeah, cool. I love what I'm hearing. I honestly, I had a question about, I didn't see anything about like the program has this, do a project or something like a lot of other things do. But now after hearing literacy more than competency, my assumption is probably not something like that. But anyway, that was question number one, if there's some kind of like hands-on project that everybody is encouraged to do or go through. I'm a solopreneur, so this is more about how do I manage my business moving forward differently and also help other small business owners and solopreneurs do things differently. No matter like what size of business or entity, I'll say I'm all about commerce over capitalism. So anywho, very logistical question though, I might have missed it. Is there already like a set day and time for the workshops, the classes, and just what that is?
Yeah, so thanks, Natalia. Let's see. Yes, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific is the session, and then the following Thursday at the same time is the office hour. And what was the first part that you asked? I was going to respond to that.
I
I said about
remember.
a project.
Oh, yeah,
like if
the
there's
project.
yeah,
one
sorry, the
or
project.
something,
So it's
but
not, there's
might
not
sound
like a
informal.
formal capstone that you have to present, but as about kind of half the folks are like have a project or have a team or have something they're going to start, you're invited to bring that to all the extra funds, and then also we have breakouts in every session. So the breakout says, hey, here's a hypothetical. If you don't have one, if you have your project, then use your project to answer this question. So there's definitely lots of room to like bring your project right to the center and apply it to everything. But it's not required and you won't be like presenting on it.
Yeah, I want to put a plug in for the office hours because that's one of the things that's great about them is because the Tuesday class is more focused on the concept that we're working on, and then the office hours is about applying it. So sometimes people are, yeah, how do I use this? How do I make this work? Or here's something that's coming up with my business, even if it doesn't quite match what we're working on. And it's an opportunity for everyone to learn on how to apply these concepts to a real life situation. Uh, and a lot of people have found that very valuable. Benji, did you have a question?
I did. Yeah. Hi. I've been a little bit multitasking, so I apologize if this is redundant or if it's been addressed already, but I guess I just wanted to just kind of like where I'm coming from. I have had the next economy on my radar for a while, and I definitely like it's definitely very aligned with where I'm at and what I'm interested in. Um, I'm kind of in the like career pivot area, like camp right now, and I've been kind of in like the social work, social services industry for some time and wanting to do something that's maybe a little bit more like systems change involved. And so I guess I'm just curious to hear some thoughts as to like, if I'm really trying to do some kind of pivot and like break into a different kind of industry, it's especially I think like I'm wanting to be as local as possible. Like, if I need to like hop into a remote job or something until I find something in my local area, that's fine. But I guess I am like wanting to invest in my local community. So I guess I'm just curious, like, um, I think this would be really great and I would learn a lot, but I also wonder if like a more traditional, like accredited, like public policy kind of degree would be maybe that's more a good starting point and have some more like formalized education to, if I'm trying to do some sort of like I don't even know what, but like sustainable community building kind of like that kind of work. Like, does it feel like it would be better to start with something more formal and get into that and then maybe tack this on down the road once I want to apply these principles? Or do you think this would be a good thing to do like starting in September and maybe be able to use this to find something that can kind of pivot? Does that make sense?
Thanks, Benji, for your question. And yeah, as mentioned, I've heard some folks talk about kind of like the contrast to academia. So we see academia kind of deeply implicated in business as usual economy, right? So deeply implicated means funded by, supportive of, getting students in massive amounts of debt, so then they have to work long careers to pay them out. So it's really hard, personally, really hard for me to encourage you to go into that. But of course, trust your own judgment. And I'm not going to say there's no value there. Uh, there's also a massive, there's a big difference, right? So this is like an intro course versus a whole master's degree. So the bite size is very different. So this is a smaller bite, but it's going to do much more to change your perspective and worldview. Whereas an academic course that you're talking about is going to kind of conform to the business as usual worldview and give you more instruction about how to do something within that. rather than to disrupt it. So that's, I don't know if other folks have something to share on that, but that would be my reaction.
Yeah, sure.
Miguel?
Hey Benji, it's Miguel.
Hi.
So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I love school. It is very business as usual. Absolutely. I do have student debt. But I trying to figure out a way to navigate that. So if you have the capacity, recommend both. I know Sean, I understand his point. It depends on what you want to do. I would explore that a little bit more first, before diving into student loans or any other way that you're navigating the business as usual system. So I am studying the sustainability global policy. I focus on a policy at a local level and within businesses, but I was doing that while I was also in this program. And I found that the master's degree that I'm working on is very valuable for the networking within the local ecosystem. So a lot of people know the program that I'm in. So I can go to a bunch of sustainability networking events. I can talk with people that are part of B Corp, Florida for Good, in the different food systems, in the different gardens, because you have graduates from the program that are all over there. Versus the Next Economy MBA, I'm able to meet people from all over the country and beyond, and kind of figure out what they've got going on and learning a lot of new language. And I can then use that language in a lot of these interactions that I'm having with people. So oftentimes it's new because some of the ideas in the Next Economy MBA are stuff that people in just standard sustainability stuff that you have in business as usual, they're not going to think about that because, as Cami mentioned, it's a lot about decarbonization and a lot about ESG frameworks, stuff like that. So when you're talking about like, I always thought it was midwifery, but Kevin midwifery. So maybe it's that. But your second loop, there's not a big focus on that, Benji. So if you're thinking about like systems change, that's not very business as usual. So the language that you're going to have to learn is going to be very different, and it's going to be a lot of studying on your own anyways. So I forget, it's Donna as her first name, but it's a primer to systems thinking. And I love it. I forget her last name. But systems thinking
Dana
is
Meadows?
I'm sorry?
Dana Meadows?
Yes,
Donella
thank
Meadows.
you. Thank you. So I would recommend looking at that, reading that. Systems thinking, I think, is a wonderful partner to the Next Economy MBA, because there's so many different types of systems thinking, and then you can think about the system as a holistic thing, and then break it down, and then look at all these different areas of it. So I would recommend doing that. And like I said, if you have the capacity and the desire to, why not both?
Mhm.
Thanks, Miguel. Just I want to jump in facilitation. I see we're at the top of the hour. I can stay. I think maybe Kevin has to go. If folks have to leave, please feel free. I do want to give a chance. Anybody who hasn't voiced would love to hear from you. And Benji, just want to check how's that landing for you.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I'll certainly have to, just kind of keep feeling it out and feel out what feels right to me. I think like, yeah, I mean, I've been really just lately, I've been getting interested in co-ops, and there's been some like traction and movement in that around. I'm in Northeast Ohio, and so I guess I'm just like at a point where it's like if I'm able to find a way to get an in with that kind of thing, I feel like maybe I don't need the formal education. I think right this moment, I feel like I'm so outside of it, and I feel like my experience so far feels so like not very relevant. So I'm just like, I want to, I'm just not sure how I can be like marketable to like, actually get into that field without, doing something like having something on my resume kind of thing. Or like have some kind of at least like practical tool that I feel like I can bring. Um, so yeah. So yeah, I think it's definitely I feel like I have a lot to think about, and so yeah, I don't know. Some thoughts. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Benji. So I'm going to stay here, and we have a bunch of preceded questions, and I'll go through those, but I want to make sure I get to everybody. I see Anwesha. Let me know if I said that right.
Yeah, it's Anwisha. Thank you so much for this, Sean. It's been really informative, and I have learned a lot already just listening to y'all. I was wondering, so my background is in public health and I'm interested in shaking up the healthcare field. As we all know, it is the worst. But it's obviously a highly like regulated sector, and also how it's financed is very different from other sectors. And I was wondering if there's like an affinity group for people working in American healthcare, or like a way to talk about those very specific issues within the Next Economy MBA framework.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it would make a great affinity group. We don't have one. We do in the sessions 17 and 18, we're kind of looking forward. Because again, this is mostly like, how do you negotiate with late stage capitalism? And of course, healthcare is mostly death care. It's not actually preventative or investing in health and wellness. It's how do you deal with symptoms after they emerge. So I think there's, I mean, it's just a huge sector. We've done some research on it. We have a program called Next Health. We ourselves at Lyft Economy, we've been experimenting with different healthcare benefits for our team and with our clients. So there's some content, and part of this is like whatever your particular passion is, as we're going through the course, you can kind of raise that as like, hey, if I'm applying this to healthcare, how would this, be relevant? So both in the live sessions, there's space for questions that could be relevant, and then of course the office hours. But specifically, we do present on Next Health in session 18, I believe.
There's also, I don't know, Sean, if you've heard of this, or Anwesha, it's called Healthcare Without Harm, which is a nonprofit that is like, that's their jam. I don't know a crazy amount about them. My current nonprofit works with them from like we do higher ed related work, but it's a sector based for healthcare and transforming the healthcare system. So I don't know if you want to look them up too, or Sean, that could be a great partner for y'all as well. Or if they have like some case studies that you could pull in, or if you've yeah, but that could also be an organization to look into that we've worked with.
Love that, Cami. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kimmy. I'll look them up. And thank you, Sean. That's helpful.
Of course. Let's see. Teresa, I see you're here. I don't know if you have anything on your mind, or any other questions. And if not, there's a few that we didn't get to that I'll address for folks that are on the recording. So let's see. Somebody's asking if is the course remote or on site? This is a webinar. And we do have folks that gather in person, but it's self-organized and periodic, so it's not a formal schedule, but it does happen. We have kind of clusters of folks, and we definitely help them get together. There's a question of how does Trump policies affect the new economy objectives? I would say, honestly, kind of same story, just a little bit more severe. Don't see any, governmental candidates really advocating for complete systems change. The government has been mostly captured by industry. This is not like some kind of conspiracy theory. We can just look at the lobbying dollar spend far eclipsing the salaries of the congressional staff, right? So kind of same story. I guess the thing that maybe is, and that we saw in the previous Trump administration, is it's kind of makes it more uncomfortable for people. And so then there's more of a desire to explore new things. So I would predict, kind of more innovation, more radicalization in response to, what I would call a counter-revolutionary administration. Let's see. What types of jobs are accessible with this MBA versus a traditional MBA? I don't know if this credential like just gets you a job. I doubt it. I don't think the other credential just gets you a job unless it's through the network of the institution that you got a degree from. So personal relationships kind of really open up a lot of doors. which, you know, I would advocate for. The relationships in the community in this program would be distinct from an academic program. And we do see folks team up with each other, partner, get hired by each other, find out about organizations through the program, and get hired by organizations or get involved. So I think it's, again, more of a mind shift of what it potentially opens up for you, and not, there's certainly not like, hey, if you get this degree, then you're definitely getting you know, this other job. Yeah, let's see. Just a couple more questions here. Let's see. Is this a dynamic training? How are you engaging with the trainees to ensure they complete the course? It's definitely dynamic. This will be our 15th time. So we've actually changed a lot of the course and the experience based on direct feedback. A lot of arts integration. We have music, dance breaks, breakouts, visuals, slides. These are all like direct requests from the community. We have feedback after every session, and we read it all, and we adapt. So it's fundamentally adaptive. When we present, we actually leave space for interaction and comments. And then, of course, we have office hours. So it is highly adaptable. We don't ensure trainees complete the course. It's self-directed learning journey. You're welcome to attend. You're welcome to not attend. If you want the certificate, we do require that you give us feedback on each session and do half of the extra funds. Let's see, is tuition paid as a one-off or payment plans available? There's both. There's you can pay for it, or you can do payment plans. And that looks like all of the questions. So any other questions or comments before we wrap? Well, thank you all for being with us. Thanks, Miguel, for offering your experience. Really appreciate you. And yeah, thanks folks for being here. We're happy to be in touch. I'll put my email address in the chat so folks can reach out to me. And we hope to see you around the movement. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.